Hey church, welcome and thank you for worshiping with us. Wherever you're worshiping, in your home or on your TV, laptop or phone, you are a part of this family. And you could watch or listen to past messages by heading to mycornerstone.family. On our sermons page, you can view playlists, search for past messages, and more. You can even listen to our content by subscribing to the Cornerstone America's podcast, which can be found on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. I hope you enjoy the message and thank you for being a part of the Cornerstone family. All right, well, hey, we're still at the beginning of the new year. A great time, again, to continue to reflect on last year, the challenges that we had, the successes and the blessings that God has given us. Also looking into the new year and what God has for us, and so excited about our young people doing that themselves and journaling that and praying over that. What an exciting thing to see. And the question still becomes, in my mind, are we looking to just have another year or have a real new year this year? And what makes a difference is really just us, involves lining up our habits in line with God's word, His will, His priorities, making sure we've kind of absorbed His habits into our life so that our lives are moving in the right direction. And again, I like to say it like this, just as many of the great men and women of the Old Testament stood before God and just said, "Here I am." At the beginning of the new year, it's just a great time just to stand before the Lord in our time of prayer, in our time of worship, and just say, "Lord, here I am." You know, my life consists of different areas. There's a spiritual life, there's a physical life, there's a relational life, there's a financial life that component to this year. And what do you want to do in our lives? And today we're talking about our physical life. You know, a great time to examine these four areas of our life and say, "Lord, what changes do you want us to make that will keep our life moving closer to you?" I want to thank Mark Collier last week for talking to us about getting in shape spiritually. This week he's up in Marion sharing that message up there with our campus there. And what a great time to talk about this. So we're talking about getting in shape. And so interesting, according to some 2024 surveys, 79% of Americans' New Year's resolutions involve improving health, related goals. 48% aim to improve fitness levels. So you could see health is on the mind of Americans, wanting to have a better life physically. And so why? It's because it's so important to us. And so how many of you here had a resolution or have just a goal for the new year to get in better shape physically or just better health-wise? Anybody make that kind of goal, New Year's resolution? I got some heads nodding, some hands going up. So interesting, 79% of Americans are setting goals at the new year related to health. Why? Because it's important to us, you know? 48% aim specifically at fitness levels. And when I talk about getting in shape this morning and getting in shape physically, I don't mean that we're trying to train for a marathon. Although that could be your goal, train for a marathon. Definitely not my goal, train for a marathon. Maybe Jen's goal to train for a marathon. Is Jen even in here? I don't think she's in here. Okay. Oh, back there. Okay, yep. So she might be training for a marathon or something longer than a marathon. But what I'm talking about here is prioritizing our health and moving more towards eating better, building better habits, strengthening our bodies, and just improving our well-being overall. So I talk about getting in shape. That's what I mean. I don't mean some sort of drastic, a thing, but just moving in that direction of becoming healthier. And so I know, and let me say also, I know some of you have jobs where you're on the move all day long, you're walking around, you're physical and stuff. For you, maybe exercising more is not a huge need, and maybe at the end of the day, you probably do need to sit down a little bit. But for probably most of us here, we probably sit most of the day, and so we do need to do something more physically. So it's important and on people's minds. Also, just let me mention, we live in very challenging times, even when it comes to having a group over for food. Like in the old days, groups were easy to feed. Everybody ate everything. But nowadays, it's not so much like that. Have you noticed, like, if you're hosting a group dinner, it's like a puzzle trying to put this together. Like, do you have gluten-free options? Do you have low-carb options? Do you have some options with no cheese? Do you have some options with no meat? I don't know why some people are so difficult like that, but there are people out there like, no meat, no cheese, please. And, groups that make it so difficult. I don't know. But anyways, Houston, we've got a problem here in America. I know you guys are laughing because they're laughing at me because I don't eat cheese and meat. And I know I am a a bit of a conundrum. All right, anyway, so we have a problem in America with our healthcare crisis. Back in 2010, a large health study was done and revealed that for the first time in history, the number of years of healthy living lost due to people eating too much was greater than people eating too little. That was a huge dynamic change that had. This marked a significant turning point in global health trends. In other words, eating too much had become more problematic than not having enough food. And of course, around the globe, not having enough nutrition is still a leading cause of disease and death. But we also have another problem of overnutrition or over having an abundance of food. Listen to this, 1 in 2 Americans suffer from some chronic disease, heart disease, diabetes, cancer. 1 in 2 Americans. We spend almost $5 trillion a year on healthcare. 5 trillion, almost 5 trillion. And about 80% of that is chronic lifestyle, preventable, reversible diseases. Now here's the, I say the funny thing, not so funny, it's about me. So about 4 years ago, I found myself in this case. As I was getting older, I had the early onset of heart disease. And make a long story short, found out my blood pressure was high, my cholesterol was high, and of course my weight was high. And I had a decision to make. The doctor wanted to put me on medication for high blood pressure and for cholesterol. And so I had to make a decision. What was I going to do? And I really did believe that a lot of the stuff that we face here in America is preventable through lifestyle. And so I started reading as many books as I could, and I found myself a cardiologist and a dietitian that focused on eating as far as prevention for heart disease, and started following this regimen. And over time, I was able to reduce my blood pressure into a normal zone, reduce my cholesterol into a normal zone, and also lose about 30 pounds, not even really trying, just focusing on eating right, bringing everything into a normal area without using any medication at all. And so, blood pressure, my blood pressure, all this stuff came down. My weight came down, but my weight wasn't the focus of what I was doing. I was just trying to literally just eat healthy. I was doing minimal exercise. I had just started some walking a couple times a week, so I wasn't even exercising hard, but my weight came down. Go to my next slide. And here's really what happened for me as far as when it comes to the losing of the weight, that we have a caloric balance equation, that caloric deficit for weight loss, we know calories consumed versus calories burned. If we consume less calories than what we're burning, we lose weight. If we consume more calories than we're burning, we gain weight. And if we have those in balance, then we just maintain our weight. And so the way I was eating, I wasn't sacrificing quantity. I could literally eat as much as I wanted, and I would not find myself in a caloric surplus where I was gaining weight. I was always just losing weight, and I really wasn't even working at it. So the weight came off, but the focus wasn't on the weight. Now, again, when I talk about getting in shape, there are reasons that we're out of shape. There's reasons for this, and there's multiple reasons, and we'll go over a few, but one is pregnancy, right? 1 pregnancy, 4 pregnancies. Pregnancy tends to cause weight gain, and I know this from personal experience because Stacy was pregnant 4 times, and every time I gained weight. So it is proven that does happen. And literally, we had to stop having kids because I couldn't afford to gain any more weight. So we said, we got to shut this thing down. I can't do this anymore. And so we know multiple pregnancies does cause people to gain weight. But honestly, there are more factors than just eating and our lifestyle as far as eating and lack of exercise. We have a lot of other issues here that can affect our weight gain. We know chemical imbalances, in our body can cause us to gain weight, and that needs to be handled by a medical professional. We know sometimes we have to take medications that can either drive our hunger or cause us to gain weight too. We got mental health struggles. We got health conditions, maybe not being able to exercise. And of course, genetics. And let me focus on genetics for just a few seconds here, because here's the thing. We know there are people that can go into the pizza place and eat a whole pizza and then walk out. And just the walk from the pizzeria back to their car, they could lose 2 pounds. And for those of you that are like that, we don't like you. I'm just saying, we don't like you. Yeah, and then there's others of us that can literally just drive by the pizzeria, smell the pizza, and we gain weight, right? We know genetics is different. All of our bodies are different. But let me say this from the onset. Just because you're not overweight doesn't mean you're not doesn't mean you're healthy. That I've seen people, we know this to be true, that everybody is different, if I get that out right. Everybody is different, and we handle what we eat differently, and just because you're not overweight doesn't mean you're healthy. If you eat junk food, if you eat processed food, and that's the majority of what you eat, and you don't eat like fruits and vegetables, you're still not gonna be healthy even if you're not overweight. For some reason, your body handles it differently. And that's just the case. But we've seen people who are not overweight, who don't eat healthy, have some serious health issues. And so it's not about weight, it's about eating healthy. It's about living a healthy lifestyle. And that's one of the things we need to focus on. The other thing here we need to remember, go to my next slide because I'm already there. No, go back one. Is it not there? No, I took it out. Here's the other thing we need to remember, that our bodies change as we get older. Has anybody noticed that? I mean, Miss Carol, we've talked about this, Retired Tuesday group, we've talked about this, that growing old is not for wimps. No, you've got to be strong. Now, not everybody's privileged to grow old, so it is a privilege to grow old. But it's not easy with our bodies. They do age, and it becomes difficult, and it is a challenge, and life is moving fast. And that's what happened to me is, as I was one of those people back years ago that I could eat anything, didn't gain any weight, didn't mean I was healthy. But as I got older, things changed. How many know as we get older, our body doesn't handle bad eating habits as well as it used to? And there's a lot of things that change as we get older. Think about this. The only time in our lives when we really want to get older is when we were kids. Do you guys remember this? I mean, and that's the only time that you would think in fractions. Like, how old are you? Three and a half. Like 4.5. And they would give, little kids give their age, and we talk about their age in fractions because, why? Because you're growing up, you want to get older, right? And when you're in your early teen years, man, they'll jump up a couple years ahead, right? They could be 13, and you could ask them, how old are you? And say, well, I'm going on 16. Which isn't necessarily not true. I mean, it is. It's just still a couple years away. It's just like 3 years away. But you jump a couple years. How old are you? I'm going on 16. You're 13. What are you talking about? But then something happens. And just remember the fractions. When you're 39, you don't count the half there, right? You don't like 39 and a half. No, you are saying 39. You could be, next month could be your birthday in the 40, and you'd be still like, I'm 39. That's the way we go. So 13, you're still like, you're jumping a couple years ahead because you want to be older. And then something happens, you become 21. It's like the greatest day of your life. You become 21. It's just like, man, that just sounds impressive. I became 21. But then something happens, 30's coming, and then you turn 30. You became 21, but you turn 30. It's like sour milk, like get it out of the refrigerator, throw it away. It's like something happened, like, he's, over the hill. So you become 21, you turn 30, something happens, ouch, it's like your bad milk, and then you start pushing 40. Come on, you guys so you guys that are over 40, you know what I'm talking about. Then you're pushing 40. Things are starting to get out of control at this point, aren't they? Because like time is picking up, speed is picking up, momentum is picking up, and you push through 40, and then you reach 50. You reach 50, and then you make it to 60. You made it. I made it. And then, boy, look out, because there's no putting the brakes on after this. I mean, you hit 70, you hit 80, maybe you hit 90. Man, you could hit 100, and it's just like, where did it all go? Life moves at us really fast. At that point, it's hitting it. And my grandpa lived to 102. And when you live to 102, once you hit 100, you start going back to fractions at that point. You do, you go back to fractions. 101 and a half, because you're just proud you've made it this far. I mean, you've hit it. You've hit a milestone here. And then, you over 100 at that point, anything is a milestone, like you hit Wednesday. And you hit lunch. I mean, you became 4:30. I mean, that's something. You reached bedtime. You weren't sure. And I know we would go over and visit my grandpa, and when he was 100 plus, maybe even a little bit younger, and like we'd be over there visiting, and they're like, he's like, I got to go to the bathroom. Like, we better go now because we're not sure how long this is going to take. I mean, it could take 30 minutes just to get to the restroom, and then so we better say goodbye now and head out. But and how many know things change as we get older? What we used to call recreation, now we call self-care. right? We're just trying to care for ourselves, trying to make sure everything doesn't just fall apart on us. But here the thing is, we really do have a problem in America. And so four things we're going to cover this morning. We'll talk quickly about the cause, the cost, the cure, and talk about some choices that we can make into healthy living. Number one, the cause, right? We know this. The cause, we have unhealthy lifestyle in America, that our whole culture just pushes us this direction, makes it easy, just a poor diet. Right, we're on the move, we're busy, and so we run through fast food places all the time. We eat quick, we eat on the run, poor diet. Physical inactivity, right? We have been removing, almost like systematically removing activity from our life. We don't want to get up to do anything, right? We got remote controls, almost do everything, lights, TV, anything, open doors, shut doors, do the laundry, everything. And so next thing you know, we're going to have computers, and we're going to have robots in our homes doing everything. Again, we're not going to move for anything. We're working on getting it out. But physical inactivity is a problem. We got tobacco use being a leading cause of disease in our country, and then excessive alcohol consumption, and then chronic stress. I tell you, when my friends from India come over and visit us every year, they'd be like, you guys are so busy. Like, you guys hurry everywhere, stressful. It's like, slow down. Like, we don't realize it, because we live in it. We're like born into this, but they come over and they see us doing so many things, running in so many directions. Like, man, it's just chronic stress. We need to make sure that we handle the stress in our lives. So there's a lot going on. And if we go back to this poor diet, this poor diet has just changed our lives in so many ways, that even just portion sizes, it's not just the poor food that we eat, it's the portion sizes. Have you guys noticed? Maybe you guys are some of you are too young. Portion sizes keep getting bigger. If you go back and look at your grandma's plates, her plates, the dinner plate is like a saucer. You seen it? But you know what we eat off? Are you guys with me? We eat off hubcaps. I mean, I really feel like they go out to the cars, they pull hubcaps off, right, at the restaurants, and they fill it full of food, and then they bring it to us and serve it. I really feel like, portion sizes are huge. Many times, Stacy and I just share meals because the portion sizes are getting so big. But really, go look back at your grandma's plates. They're like real small. And so there's the cost here. I'm getting way out of line here. Where are we? Thank you. So the cost, I don't know, somewhere I'm in my notes, I'm in here somewhere. Okay, all right, so we have social costs. I mean, reduced quality of life, right? It's hard to live a good quality of life when we're not feeling well. And then premature deaths that happen because of it. And then the impact on families as far as just dealing with a sick family member, being sick yourself, or just premature death, and then, of course, emotional and mental cost of that too. So there's a lot of cost. And there's financial costs. Just think about our healthcare spending. It's just almost $5 trillion, loss of productivity, time at work or doing other things, and then the individual costs that we take on. It's just, there's a cost that we incur. All right, go to my next slide. Let's talk about the cure. The cure is to understand our bodies, to understand why God designed our bodies the way they're. And every body, I really believe, is important. And Scripture emphasizes this. I know some people might think, why is he talking about getting in shape physically? We're a church. We should be talking about spiritual things. Well, we are spirit, soul, and body. We believe that we're three parts, but those three parts are so interconnected, and they affect each other. And so, and God gave us a body for a reason. Let's look at a couple verses here. I think it'd be helpful that he created our bodies and he inhabits our bodies. Look at this verse. Do you not know that your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit, who is in you, whom you've received from God? You're not your own. You were bought with a price. Therefore, honor God with your body. Now look at this. That do you not know that your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit? That God is in us. We are the temple. Now, I don't know about you, but I do like this building that we have. And this building is important. We've set this building apart to be used for God's purposes. And so we don't allow certain things to happen in this building, like wild parties, crazy things happening, right? Sinful things. We've set it apart. We use it for certain purposes because we've set it apart for God. But really, this is not the house of God. There's nothing special about this building except for the fact that we've set it apart for God's use. We truly are the house of God. This is what's special. And what we do with our bodies is important. Think about this. God even came to earth in a body. 1 Timothy 3:16, and it says, and without controversy, great is the mystery of godliness. God was manifested in the flesh, right? He came in flesh. He took on a body. Not only did he create us with a body, but he came to this earth through a body. 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 14 says, by his power, God raised the Lord from the dead, and he will raise us also. So not only did he die, he was resurrected, his body was brought back to life, and we believe too, according to the scriptures, that our bodies will be brought back to life. Now, here's the good news. That is, we may not like our bodies right now. We're going to love our new bodies. It's a new and improved version. It's going to be a lot better than the old. And so we get a new body with a new heaven and a new earth, but we're going to continue to have a body. That's what makes us different than angels. We have a body. And so that was part of God's plan, that we would inhabit these bodies. 1 Thessalonians 5:23, think about this. May God himself, the God of peace, sanctify you through and through, and may your whole spirit, soul, and body be kept blameless at the coming of our Lord Jesus. It becomes an issue of stewardship. How well are we doing at stewarding the body that God gave us? And it's more than just food. It's how we act. It's what we say. It's what we do. It involves sex. So it involves if we handle our bodies for sin or how we handle it for good. So it has to do with all that we do inside this body. Are we handling it in a way that honors God? First, going back to 1 Corinthians chapter 6, look at 19b and verse 20. He says, you were not your own, you were bought at a price. He says, therefore, honor God with your body. That's something to consider at the beginning of the new year. Lord, am I honoring you with my body? The way I dress, the way I act, the things I say, what I eat. Does it honor my life? So getting enough sleep. All these areas, am I honoring you with my body? Am I being a good steward of what you've given me? Are we good stewards of what he's given us? And then verse 19, the first part of this says, do you not know that your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit who is in you, whom you receive from God? The Spirit of God is living inside this body. This is the house of God. Our bodies are the house of God. Are we being good stewards with this body? Now, before I go to my next point, let me just mention here at the get-go that, if you lose 10 pounds this year, God's not going to love you anymore. If you gain 10 pounds this year, God's not going to love you any less. So it's not going to make a difference on how much God loves us, right? All right, so let's go to the choices. Let's spend a little bit of time on the choices here. 1 Timothy 4:7-8. I think this is a great verse to start with here. It says, having nothing to do with godless myths and old wives' tales. Rather, notice here, train yourself to be godly, for physical training is of some value, but godliness has value for all things, holding promise for both the present life and the life to come. So obviously, training for godliness, way more important than training for our physical bodies. But notice here, he says, train yourself to be godly, for physical training is of some value. It does have some value. How we take care of our body, how we train our body has some value. Now, let's remember, too, the context that this was written in. Back in Jesus' day, back in Paul's day, they walked everywhere. This society was much more physical than ours. We walk very little. We drive cars, escalators, elevators. Like I said, we've been removing movement from our society, from our culture for a long time. So I imagine here, if Paul was writing this to our culture, he might say this a little bit differently. Back in their day when they worked physical all day, they probably did need to rest. If you work a job where you're physical all day long, you may need to rest at the end of the day. For most of us, we sit all day. We need to do something physical when we're not working. But he says, for physical training is of some value, but godliness has value for all things in this life and the life to come. So it is more important. But there is value to keeping our bodies moving. So let's go to the choices. Here we go. Number one, we need to move more. This is what we need to be praying about. This is what we need to be thinking about. How can I move more in the new year? What would that look like for you? For some, I know some of you get up early and you work out in the morning. I know some of you take your lunchtime and go out for a walk or a jog. I know some people like to do it after work. You go to the gym, or you go out for a run, or you go out for a walk. When our kids were younger, we would do it at the end of the day. We would all go out for a walk. Our kids would ride bikes or skateboards or whatever they wanted to. We would walk. They would get out energy. We would get some exercise. We could also talk while we were walking. But you can find a way to exercise, to get your body moving, that kind of fits into your lifestyle and make it kind of a habit of your way of doing life. How can you move more? That would be the key here for making the right choices, is how can I move more. Because remember, again, in our society, we're taking movement out of our daily routine. We need to intentionally put it back in. I love the commercials from years ago. A body in motion stays in motion. We remember that. No, a body in motion stays in motion. We got to keep our bodies moving, okay? Movement is important. All right, so choose an activity. Figure out how you can put it into your daily rhythm of life or weekly rhythm and stay at it. All right, how about the next one? You got to eat. You got to move more. You got to eat less of the wrong stuff and more of the right stuff. Here's the key. It's easy to eat a lot of the wrong stuff. It's hard to eat more of the good stuff. But it is doable. It is very possible. It's very easy. But we got to really be intentional. We got to focus. Eat less of the wrong things and eat more of the right things. Probably most Americans need more fruit, need more vegetables. How can you put more fruits and more vegetables into your diet? Probably more grains and also some fiber. You guys need to eat beans. If I'm not hearing stuff while I'm preaching, we need more beans. Never mind. Okay, we probably do. We do need more beans, though. I'm serious about that, but I don't want to hear it. All right, so we need to eat more. So what do you got to do? You got to work this into your daily routine, into your daily habit. I got easy ways. I can make dinner in 10 minutes, and it probably costs, if it's just Stacy and I eating, not the rest of the kids, probably for $10 or less. It's not expensive to eat healthy if you know how to do it. It doesn't take long to put it together if you know how to do it. It's easy. You've got to make it a routine. You've got to make it. You've got to get that process, as we talked about a couple weeks ago. You got to know the purpose. You got to know the process, how you're going to do it, and stick with it. It's really not that difficult when you learn how. And that's why I knew I had to get myself a cardiologist and a dietitian to show me how to simply put meals together fast, easy, that are also cheap to make it work for us, because otherwise it wasn't going to happen. So therefore I was able to eat more of the right stuff, less of the wrong stuff, and lose weight in the process and get healthy, lower my blood pressure, lower my cholesterol. Here's the thing, we need to eat more of the good stuff. We need to eat more real food. Fast food, most fast food is not real food. It's food-like substances. It's more chemicals than it is food. We need more real food. How about we need to massively decrease the amount of sugar we eat, because we have increased it. In 1800, the average person consumed 5 pounds of sugar per year. In 1800, 5 pounds. We now consume 152 pounds of sugar a year. You know what that does to our bodies? It wrecks it. 152 pounds of sugar the average person eats every year. Man, think about the chemistry, what the chemistry is going on in our bodies. All right, my next one. Turn off the TV and put down the devices. One of the reasons we sit so much, and I have the same problem, we sit and we watch TV and we look at our devices and we've become even more sedentary in our lifestyle. We need to turn off the TV. Not only does it stop us from moving, it also many times causes us to eat, because what do you like to do while you're watching TV? We want to eat, right? We want to snack. So that's another reason. And then the other thing, commercials. You know, companies are paying thousands upon thousands of dollars for commercials about food. And it works. It influences our eating. And so we're being influenced by the commercials, unless you record and fast forward through them. So maybe you can cut down your TV time and less influence on that. But we also need to put down our devices, get our bodies moving. Okay? So how would you do that this year? What would that look like for you? Go to my next one. Skip sugary drinks and desserts. Ouch. Sugary drinks. We got to cut out the pop. We got to cut out the Coke. I said that on purpose. I've lived in the South long enough to know. In Ohio, we call it pop. Down here, everything's a Coke, no matter what it is. Everybody was giving me dirty looks when I said that. When we first moved down here, we went down to Target in Albany, and they had that little, they don't have it anymore, but they had that little snack space. I think right now they have like Starbucks, thank you, that's what they have. And so you could go up and you could get Coke, popcorn, or stuff. And I went up there and said, can I get a pop? And she goes, well, you want popcorn? What is it you want? Like, confused her, like, no, I want a Coke. Just give me a Coke, thank you, yes, thank you. So sugary drinks and desserts. You know, some people have been known to lose weight just by cutting out the sugary drinks. It adds that much, amazingly enough. Cut out the sugary drinks, and that may be a game changer for you. But still want to do more than that because you want to get healthy. And then my last one here, will it show up? Yeah, here it is. Survey says, Avoid strange diets. Avoid fad diets. Man, if you're on social media at any length of time, man, we've seen them all. There's a different diet out there for everything. And so avoid strange diets. Stay away from fad diets. Hey, the key is eating healthier, eating more of the good stuff, less of the bad stuff, and then exercising. Just get your body moving. It's almost like these are the secrets for getting in shape physically. It's really not secrets. It's just this is the way we used to live years ago, and we've just moved further and further away from the way to do it. So, all right. So let's give some thought here as we're getting ready to wrap up and close this morning. If you go to my list, yeah, we've got it up here. So take a look at this list, and I want you to prayerfully consider what's your next step for this year. As you stand before God, say, God, here I am. What changes do I need to make, when it comes to my physical body? How do I get moving more? How do I get eating more of the right stuff, in my life? And what's the key to maybe turning off that TV a little bit more and getting up and moving more and cutting out the sugary drinks and avoiding strange diets? Will you stand with me as we get ready to close in prayer this morning? This is one of the big areas of our life, and it's so connected to everything we do, our physical bodies. And so there's two things you want to think about as you're thinking about your next step on this. How do you create the habit of this into your life? How do you create the habit so it's easy for you to do? Because if it's easy for us to do and it becomes a habit, we're more likely to do it every day and carry it on throughout the year. And then who can you get to gather around you and support you and hold you accountable? We got a lot of great people in this church that have been working on years of getting healthy. If you have questions, I can help answer questions. And Jen Almeida's in the back. She has been taking some of our ladies month by month and getting their bodies moving and just doing a spiritual devotional with it and talking about getting healthy. We've got other people in the church that can help too. But create habits around these next steps and then gather support as we stand before God and just say, God, here we are. This is one of the areas of my life that's important. It's important to me. It's important to you. How can I make some healthy steps in this year?